Two men on a motorcycle spot a lone woman on a quiet Buenos Aires street. What they don't realize is that she's a plainclothes police officer. The bike stops, one rider jumps off and moves in, trying to trap her at the curb while the driver idles nearby. Reading the threat, the officer steps back, draws her service weapon, and fires several shots off camera while moving away. The robbers panic, scramble back to the bike, and flee. Later, both are detained by police after seeking medical help. The officer and bystanders are unharmed. This was a response by a trained officer. For regular citizens, the safer move in an armed robbery is usually to avoid resisting, create distance if you can, and call police once you're clear. Quiet 2 a.m. gas stop turns when a biker decides this silver car will be his easy target. He parks beside the car, pulls a handgun, and points it toward the driver as the gas attendant quickly steps back. The victim is actually an off-duty police officer. From inside the vehicle, he fires once, startling the suspect and knocking the weapon from his hand. The rider tries to flee, loses control of the bike, crashes, and is held at gunpoint until medical help and on-duty officers arrive to arrest him. In any armed robbery, distance and cover are your best protection. Get away from the danger zone and call police rather than trying to intervene yourself. It's Brazil. Two men on a motorcycle slow down in the middle of a quiet street, one passenger already lifting a gun toward a man walking alone. The man is an off-duty police officer heading home. He's in plain clothes, standing in the open, but you can see him tracking the bike as it rolls straight toward him. As the passenger points the weapon, the officer reacts first, stepping sideways, drawing his own firearm, and firing several shots while backing away. The motorcycle collapses, both suspects fall to the ground, and one scrambles up and runs while the officer keeps his distance and maintains control of the scene until help can arrive. Armed confrontations are extremely unpredictable. Civilians should focus on creating distance, getting to cover, and calling the police, never trying to copy what a trained officer does under pressure. A parked car becomes the center of a sudden confrontation on a quiet residential street. In Praia Azul, Americana, a white car is stopped curbside with a family inside when a black vehicle pulls up nearby. The moment is captured by a fixed street security camera. Three armed suspects approach the vehicle, and within seconds, the situation escalates as the driver reacts from inside the car. One suspect is stopped at the scene while the others flee. Authorities respond quickly, and the incident becomes part of an ongoing investigation. When confronted by an armed robbery, prioritize distance, cover, and escape whenever possible. Personal safety comes before property or confrontation. An armed robbery inside a pizza shop unravels just seconds after it begins. CCTV from a pizzeria in Botucatu shows two helmeted suspects entering the shop and threatening staff while demanding cash. Police arrive at the entrance as the robbery unfolds. Gunfire follows, and both suspects collapse inside the shop as the glass storefront breaks. Officers secure the scene while staff and customers remain inside. Emergency services respond, and the incident moves into investigation. A couple is stepping out of their car at night when two motorcycles loop back and one rider levels a gun at the husband. The street is quiet. The pair stand by the car door as a bike slows, turns, and the passenger walks up, weapon in hand, demanding valuables. What he doesn't see is that the wife is a civil police investigator. She draws her concealed handgun, steps off the car, and fires toward the armed suspect. The man staggers, tries to reach the motorcycle, then falls in the street and is later taken to hospital under police guard. His partner jumps back on the bike and speeds away. Even when things end without bystanders hurt, gunfire on a public street is extremely dangerous. Situational awareness, using vehicles and walls as cover, and calling police from a safe distance are the safest options for civilians. Armed interventions should be left to trained professionals. A quiet neighborhood street turns tense when a silver car slows to a stop and two young men suddenly rush toward it. It's midday in Avellaneda. A retired federal police officer is driving home when the pair rush his Peugeot, one moving to the window, reportedly armed and demanding the car. With no room to drive off, the officer stays in the seat, draws his licensed handgun, identifies himself, and fires from inside the vehicle, sending both suspects scrambling. One suspect goes down beside the car while the other runs off down the street. The officer steps out, kicks a gun away from reach, and neighbors call police and paramedics to the scene. Most people aren't trained for this level of danger. Your safest option in a robbery is usually compliance, looking for a chance to create distance, then calling authorities as soon as you're able. Two tiny dogs explode into barking, and their owner suddenly realizes someone is already in his driveway. Night vision CCTV in Brazil shows a quiet, covered parking spot and a parked SUV. The dogs won't stop barking, so the homeowner steps to the doorway to check. A figure appears beside the SUV and starts moving toward the house. The homeowner ducks behind the wall, draws a handgun, and leans out from cover to assess the intruder. The intruder keeps advancing, so the homeowner fires several defensive shots off camera from cover. The suspect goes down near the vehicle while the homeowner retreats further inside and calls police. Even with an alarm or loyal dogs, your first move should be distance, solid cover, and contacting authorities. Never chase intruders, protect your position, and let trained officers handle the confrontation. Businessman suspects attempted robbery may have been a contract-killing operation. A man enters the Coagro company headquarters during regular business hours, briefly engaging employees inside the main office lobby area. Moments later, gunfire erupts inside the office space as workers react immediately, forcing the intruder to flee suddenly toward the exit. Employees avoid serious harm as police open a formal investigation, while evidence increasingly suggests this was not a conventional robbery attempt. The business owner states the suspect appeared to target him specifically and deliberately, raising concerns of a planned, premeditated hit. Two men rob a Bogota bakery without realizing one customer is an off-duty cop. Security cameras show a busy bakery. A man in a red jacket walks in first, scouting. His partner follows, pulls a gun from his waistband, and orders customers to hand over their belongings. One of the customers is an off-duty officer from a special police unit. As the robber focuses on the crowd, the officer draws his concealed weapon and challenges them. The robbers drop the gun and try to flee. Nearby patrols hear the shots, move in quickly, and arrest both suspects. The stolen items are recovered and returned to the victims. In an armed robbery, most people should comply, stay low, and focus on surviving, then give police clear details so trained professionals can safely take over. A robber grabs an elderly customer as a shield and thinks the shop is his until the cashier moves. Security cameras show a small store counter. An armed man rushes in, points a gun, and pulls the grandmother in front of him while demanding cash. When the robber turns slightly toward the register, the cashier spots a narrow opening, draws his own handgun, and fires several defensive shots off camera from behind the counter. The robber lets go of the woman and runs for the door, while the cashier keeps distance and holds his aim. The grandmother drops to the floor and appears to avoid injury as staff call police. Situations with weapons are highly unpredictable. The safest option for most people is to avoid resisting, protect bystanders if possible, and contact authorities as soon as it's safe. Masked teens rush a smoke shop counter, only to be driven back by the owner. In Las Vegas, 3 masked juveniles enter a smoke shop. One grabs the tip jar, while another moves toward the register and then jumps over the glass case. Fearing he's about to be overwhelmed, the owner grabs a sharp object from the counter and fights the intruder off, while the other teens run for the door. The suspect falls near the entrance, and the owner immediately stops, calls 911, and waits for police. Officers later arrest the juveniles, and the injured teen is taken to the hospital. Robberies can turn chaotic in seconds. Physical resistance carries huge risks. Whenever possible, focus on prevention, staying calm, and calling authorities as soon as it's safe to do so. Quiet liquor store suddenly turns into chaos when 2 masked men rush in and a customer drops to the floor, trying to crawl away as a gun is raised over her. The robbers force the worker and customer to comply, while one suspect moves behind the counter, aiming the weapon and demanding the day's takings from the register. As the gunman shifts his focus toward the customer, the worker sees a split-second opening, lunges forward, and wrestles with him in a close-quarters struggle. The fight drives the armed robber backward toward the exit. Both suspects break free, retreat to a waiting vehicle, and speed away, while the worker and customer make it to safety and contact police. Confronting an armed attacker is extremely risky. Whenever possible, prioritize staying low, using cover and escaping, and rely on layered security measures like cameras, controlled entry, and quick calls to authorities instead of direct physical resistance. A masked robber raises a gun, then a customer behind him moves first. Early morning at an Arizona gas station, 3 suspects walk in. One points a handgun toward the cashier as a Marine Corps veteran stands nearby. The moment the muzzle drifts past him, the veteran lunges, grabs the gun hand, and slams the suspect against the counter while the other 2 run. He wrenches the weapon away and holds the suspect on the floor until deputies arrive. Reports say no injuries were recorded, and the juvenile is taken into custody. Robberies unfold in seconds, and intervening is extremely risky. Whenever possible, create distance, stay low, and call law enforcement instead of trying to disarm an attacker. A gun is inches from his face, but the man in the hat is the one who moves. Inside a butcher shop in Nuevo Leon, a hooded robber points a handgun toward the cashier and the owner in the cowboy hat, demanding cash. When the robber briefly turns toward a female customer behind him, the owner seizes the moment, lunges forward, and clamps onto the gun arm. He drives the robber backward in a tight clinch, knocks the weapon away, and wrestles him to the ground as other employees rush in. The suspect is held until police arrive and is later charged with attempted robbery. Disarming an armed robber is extremely risky and should never be attempted unless there is no safer option. In most situations, maintaining distance, staying low, and calling law enforcement when it's safe is the best way to survive. A masked robber leaps the counter with a shotgun, but someone outside is watching. Evening at a supermarket in Superia, Trinidad and Tobago. 2 armed men rush in. One climbs the counter for cash, while customers back away, and a security guard waits near the entrance. As the robbers run for the door, the guard draws his firearm, fires, and the gunman near the entrance drops the weapon and goes down. Police arrive moments later, recover the shotgun, detain the second suspect, and the injured robber is taken to the hospital under guard. Gunfights are chaotic and unpredictable. If a robbery erupts, don't try to be the hero. Get low, move to cover if you safely can, and call law enforcement once you're out of danger. A routine interaction inside a phone store turns into a sudden confrontation. CCTV inside a cell phone and accessories store in Asuncion shows a man entering and posing as a customer while speaking with the employee at the counter. At close range, the suspect draws a firearm from his waistband. The employee grabs his wrist, and a brief struggle follows near the entrance as the suspect drops his bag and loses control of the weapon. With the firearm on the floor, the employee forces the suspect out of the store. The suspect flees without taking anything, and police later recover the weapon and review the footage. Close-range robberies escalate instantly. Distance, barriers, and loss of weapon control can change outcomes, but personal safety must always come first. In heavy traffic, a woman walks up to a green SUV and suddenly levels what looks like a gun at the passenger window. Cars are stopped on a busy avenue when she steps off the curb, approaches the SUV, and points the object at the passenger, demanding valuables as nearby. Drivers look on. The driver, seeing the weapon aimed at him, draws a firearm from inside the vehicle and fires a single shot through the open window. The suspect turns, staggers between the cars, and collapses farther up the street. Emergency services and police respond, and officers later confirm she had been using a toy gun. In real time, no one can tell a toy from a real weapon. Any armed confrontation in traffic can turn deadly in seconds. If you witness a roadside robbery, stay in your vehicle if possible, avoid sudden movements, call authorities, and focus on observing details rather than intervening. A late-night delivery stop is interrupted by an unexpected approach from the dark. Late in the evening, a delivery driver finishes a stop and prepares to leave on his motorcycle when an individual arrives on a bicycle and initiates a robbery. As the delivery driver complies, a car pulls up from behind, changing the dynamics of the scene in seconds. the approaching vehicle accelerates into the cyclist, ending the robbery attempt. The delivery driver steps away from the motorcycle as the scene stabilizes and authorities are later notified. Robbery situations are volatile and unpredictable. Maintaining awareness, avoiding intervention by bystanders, and prioritizing safe withdrawal reduces the risk of escalation. A woman leans over the glass case, then suddenly whips her hand toward the jeweler's eyes. Ahmedabad, India. Inside a small jewelry shop, a lone jeweler is serving a woman who appears to be a normal customer. She waits until he's close and relaxed behind the counter. In a flash, she tries to fling chili powder toward his face to blind him and grab the display pieces. The jeweler instinctively blocks, then rushes her, pushing and striking out in a brief struggle and forcing her away from the counter as staff and bystanders react. He forces her back toward the doorway and out of the shop as the struggle continues, before the situation finally breaks and the footage later goes to police. For small shops, the safer move is distance, not payback. Keep counters as physical barriers, step back from reaching range, use alarms or shout for help, and focus on locking doors and preserving evidence. Once the immediate threat is stopped, disengage and call authorities instead of continuing force. Night dash cam shows a couple on a motorcycle stopped by two riders. Seconds later, the off-duty cop is on the phone saying, "They tried to steal my bike. I have one down." An off-duty Buenos Aires police sergeant rides with his girlfriend when another motorcycle pulls alongside. The passenger points what appears to be a gun and orders the officer to hand over his bike. He gets off and steps away as his girlfriend runs. The thief climbs onto the stolen motorcycle and starts to ride off. From several meters behind, the officer draws his service pistol and fires multiple shots toward the fleeing rider. The thief falls in the street and later dies, while his accomplice escapes. When investigators review the footage and discover the suspect's weapon was a homemade fake and that he was moving away, the officer is arrested and the case is treated as a possible excessive force shooting rather than a clear self-defense incident. Even in an armed robbery, the legal right to use deadly force usually ends once the threat is breaking contact, and you have a path to safety. Shooting at a fleeing attacker can turn a defensive moment into a criminal investigation, especially when authorities decide the danger was no longer immediate. Late night in Argentina, two men on a motorcycle think they've found an easy target, but he's a federal police officer off duty. CCTV shows the officer walking on the sidewalk. The bike rolls up. The passenger hops off, points a revolver, and demands his phone while the rider keeps the engine running. The officer raises a hand as if complying, then quickly draws his service weapon, identifies himself, and fires several controlled shots to stop the armed attacker. The suspect falls to the pavement while the rider sprints away with the motorcycle as neighbors call police and emergency services to the scene. Armed robberies escalate in seconds. Unless you're trained law enforcement, your best defense is distance, cover, and calling authorities, never trying to outdraw a weapon yourself. Three men rush in. They don't realize two off-duty officers are watching from across the street. Late night in San Justo, a white sedan parks. A man and woman get out. A gray hatchback pulls up. Two men jump out and rush the couple, aiming a handgun, while a third stays behind the wheel. As the victims hand over their keys, a father and son, both off-duty Buenos Aires police, step in with their service pistols drawn, shouting commands. One suspect turns with the gun, and controlled gunfire erupts. One robber is hit and drops to the sidewalk. Another immediately surrenders, and the getaway driver speeds off. Patrol units arrive soon after to secure the scene and take the arrested suspects into custody. Armed robberies escalate in seconds. Keep distance from suspicious vehicles. Call police as early as possible and never move toward an active gunfight. Leave interventions like this to trained officers. A robber points a gun across the bakery counter. This time, the owner refuses to give up her day's cash. The same man had robbed this bakery the night before. When he returns and demands money again, the owner is behind the counter, already on edge. As he reaches over the register with the gun still visible, she snatches a small kitchen knife and steps toward him, screaming for help. The robber backs away and bolts out the door, fleeing into the street while the owner and bystanders call police and lock the shop. Armed robbery is unpredictable. Whenever possible, prioritize distance, escape, and calling authorities instead of direct confrontation. 2 armed thieves can't get a stolen motorcycle started, giving their victim just enough time to fight back. In Ecuador, 2 men pull up on a motorcycle and target a parked bike outside a home. One waves a handgun and moves toward the door, while the other jumps on the victim's motorcycle, frantically trying to start it and escape. Before they can leave, the owner rushes out from the property holding a machete. He sprints toward the thieves as the rider finally gets the motorcycle rolling. The owner swings at the man still on foot, appearing to land at least one blow as the pair scramble onto their original bike and speed away down the road. Chasing armed robbers can easily turn deadly for you and everyone nearby. When faced with a weapon, prioritize distance, cover, and calling authorities over, trying to win back property in a fight. A masked robber storms into a liquor shop with a hammer. Seconds later, he's pinned down by the very people he tried to scare. In a small Russian beer shop, a hooded man walks up to the counter waving a hammer and demanding cash. The clerk stays surprisingly calm as a lone customer browses nearby. Instead of freezing, the clerk fires pepper spray directly at the robber's face and ducks back. Disoriented, the robber stumbles, and the customer rushes in, swinging a chair to keep distance and knock the weapon away. The pair push the robber into a corner, keep him off balance with the chair and more spray, and hold him there until responding officers arrive and take him into custody. Coordinated action, distance, and simple tools can stop an armed threat, but the safest move is always to prioritize escape and call authorities instead of trying to fight alone. A quiet cell phone shop turns deadly when a customer suddenly reaches for a gun. CCTV shows him chatting with the clerk, acting interested in phones. The man whips out a handgun. The owner reacts immediately, drawing his own firearm and firing in self-defense. Off camera, the suspect drops to the floor and the owner backs away and calls police. Officers later confirm the man was armed and the robbery attempt is over. Armed robberies escalate in a split second. Most people's safest move is to create distance, find cover, and call authorities, not try to fight an armed attacker themselves. A normal day in a Rio bank snaps into chaos when a hooded man storms the counter with a gun. The lobby is crowded, customers in line, and a uniformed guard stands by the hallway as 2 armed robbers enter and one points a revolver at the tellers. While the gunman focuses on the cash, the guard quietly angles himself, draws his service weapon, and fires controlled shots from the side corridor to stop the attack. The armed suspect falls near the entrance and is disarmed as the second robber sprints out of the branch empty-handed. Customers duck for cover until police arrive, and authorities later confirm the wounded suspect does not survive. In an armed robbery, sudden hero moves can get you hurt. Stay low, use cover, follow clear instructions from security or police, and move only when it's safe to escape. Late night in Sao Paulo, a lone woman crosses the street. A car screeches to a stop beside her. A man jumps out, blocks her path, and grabs at her, not realizing she's an off-duty military police officer. As he lunges, she slips to the side, draws her firearm, and fires a single defensive shot. He drops to the ground while she moves back, keeping distance until backup and medical teams arrive. Street attacks unfold in seconds. Situational awareness, creating space, and calling authorities immediately are the safest options. Never confront an attacker if you're not trained. Focus on escape and getting help. A quiet smoke shop shift explodes when a masked man jumps the counter with a weapon in his hands. Late night in Northwest Houston, a clerk is counting cash while a customer waits. An SUV pulls up and 2 masked suspects rush in. One heads straight behind the counter holding a long weapon, closing the distance fast. As the suspect comes around the register, the clerk backs up, draws a legally owned handgun, and fires several shots. The armed suspect is struck and goes down out of frame as the others run. The clerk and customer are not physically injured. The remaining suspects flee in the SUV, and investigators later confirm the wounded suspect did not survive. Police review the security footage and treat it as an armed robbery case, with the employee acting in self-defense. In any armed robbery, survival comes first. Create distance, look for cover, and call authorities as soon as it's safe, instead of trying to protect cash or merchandise. A quiet sidewalk moment unravels in seconds when a motorcycle rolls in too close. In the Novo Reno neighborhood of Manaus, two men arrive on a motorcycle and approach pedestrians on the sidewalk at night. Security camera footage captures the moment a cell phone is taken during the brief encounter. As the suspects prepare to leave, police patrol units already nearby move in almost immediately, cutting off their escape. Both suspects are detained within seconds of the robbery. A replica firearm and the stolen phone are recovered, and the pair are taken into custody for processing. Street robberies often happen fast, but rapid reporting, visible patrols, and avoiding resistance can sharply reduce the chance of further escalation. A teen in a green camo hoodie levels a gun at the clerk. Seconds later, the clerk suddenly opens fire. New Orleans. Inside a crowded corner store, a lone clerk works behind the counter while two young men enter, one browsing, the other hovering near the register in a bright camo hoodie. The teen in camo pulls a handgun and points it at the clerk, demanding cash. The clerk raises his hands as the robber grabs money from the till, briefly looking away and loosening control of the scene. As the gunman steps back, the clerk stands, draws his own weapon, and fires in self-defense. The teen drops out of frame while the second suspect sprints out of the store, and emergency services are called. In armed robberies, survival comes first. Avoid sudden moves, use the counter as cover, create distance when you can, and call emergency services as soon as the immediate threat stops, rather than chasing suspects or continuing the confrontation. A routine sidewalk robbery collapses when traffic suddenly becomes part of the scene. In daylight on an urban street, a lone suspect on a motorcycle approaches a small group standing against a wall. The rider positions the bike at the curb, using the sidewalk as the point of control while demanding cell phones. As the suspect focuses on collecting the phones and checking surroundings, a car enters the frame from the roadway, closing distance far faster than expected. The motorcycle is knocked off balance. The suspect is forced off the bike, and the robbery attempt immediately ends as he attempts to escape. Bystanders scatter as the situation shifts from theft to emergency. Response: avoid engaging or lingering during a street robbery. Unpredictable traffic and bystander movement makes sidewalks and roadways inherently dangerous. A routine ride home turns into a split-second confrontation on a rain-slick street. In downtown Sao Paulo, a military police officer leaves work on a motorcycle when an individual approaches and announces a robbery. The scene is captured by a fixed security camera. The encounter escalates immediately at close range as the officer responds to the threat. The suspect is stopped during the confrontation, and emergency services respond within moments. Authorities secure the area and open an investigation. Armed encounters unfold in seconds. Avoid confrontation whenever possible, and prioritize distance, cover, and immediate reporting to authorities. What looks like a routine transaction at a small counter suddenly takes a sharp turn. Two masked suspects enter a small market and threaten the shopkeeper's wife while taking cash and items from the counter. The incident is recorded by the store's internal security cameras. Watching the situation unfold on the cameras, the shop owner reacts as the suspects are distracted inside the store. Both suspects are struck during the confrontation. One later dies after being taken for medical treatment, while the other survives and is arrested. Police confirm the weapon used was a replica, and the case remains under investigation. Robberies escalate without warning. Prioritize avoidance, compliance, and alerting authorities over confrontation whenever possible. Lunch on the sidewalk freezes when a helmeted rider reaches for a diner's gold chain. Two men on a motorcycle circle the corner, stop, and one walks in with his helmet on, heading straight for the front table where the chain is visible. He grabs for the chain and threatens the table. A man in a blue shirt stands, draws a concealed gun, and orders him back as the suspect turns to run toward the street. Shots are fired toward the fleeing suspects. One falls near the roadway. The rider crashes the bike, and diners duck behind tables while the armed customer keeps his distance and emergency services are called. Motorcycle thieves often rush outdoor tables and target visible jewelry. If you see riders circling or stopping too close, move inside, lower your profile, and be ready to seek cover and alert authorities instead of trying to defend valuables. A quiet sidewalk moment unravels in seconds when a motorcycle rolls in too close. In the Novo Reno neighborhood of Manaus, two men arrive on a motorcycle and approach pedestrians on the sidewalk at night. Security camera footage captures the moment a cell phone is taken during the brief encounter. As the suspects prepare to leave, police patrol units already nearby move in almost immediately, cutting off their escape. Both suspects are detained within seconds of the robbery. A replica firearm and the stolen phone are recovered, and the pair are taken into custody for processing. Street robberies often happen fast, but rapid reporting, visible patrols, and avoiding resistance can sharply reduce the chance of further escalation. A quiet alley turns into a split-second decision when a motorcycle stop becomes a standoff. Two suspects arrive on a motorcycle in a narrow street, using the bike as a fast in-and-out platform. They close distance on a pedestrian near a wall/gate line, keeping the encounter tight and hard to escape. A weapon is revealed, and the situation escalates instantly. The encounter destabilizes as the attempted robbery breaks down and control is lost. The suspects lose the clean exit they were counting on. One ends up separated from the escape plan, while the other breaks away down the street, leaving the scene in disarray. Avoid resisting or escalating during a motorcycle robbery. Once movement, weapons, and escape routes collide, control disappears and risk multiplies instantly. A parked car becomes the focus of a sudden approach by two riders on a motorcycle. Two individuals on a motorcycle stop beside a car on a residential street and confront the occupant, demanding personal belongings. The moment is captured by street security cameras. As the confrontation escalates at close range, the situation shifts abruptly when the target resists and the motorcycle loses stability. One suspect is critically injured during the incident and later dies after receiving medical care, while the second flees and is later taken into custody. Authorities secure the scene and open a formal investigation into the circumstances. Street robberies unfold in seconds. Maintaining awareness, avoiding resistance, and prioritizing escape and reporting are critical to reducing risk. Only to run straight into a wall of bear spray. Late at night, in a small Gatineau convenience store, the clerk is behind the counter when two masked suspects walk in, brandishing knives and demanding money. Instead of opening the till, the clerk grabs a can of bear spray and fires a strong burst across the counter, forcing both robbers to turn away and stumble back. One suspect runs for the door, while the clerk manages to overpower the other and hold him on the ground until police arrive. Both men are later taken into custody. Officers later stress that the safest option is to avoid confronting armed robbers whenever possible, create distance, get to cover, and call emergency services rather than trying to fight back. A couple steps out of their car. A car theft attempt turns dangerous on a quiet residential street. Nighttime CCTV shows a man approaching a parked car on a narrow street. Unaware the owner, a civil police officer, is seated inside. As the suspect attempts to enter the vehicle, the officer reacts from inside and fires, stopping the advance. The suspect collapses beside the car as neighbors gather. Emergency services arrive and transport him by ambulance while police secure the scene. An ice cream outing becomes the center of a sudden confrontation outside a neighborhood shop. In Sayago, Uruguay, CCTV shows an off-duty police officer seated outside an ice cream shop with his child when two men arrive on a motorcycle and approach the tables. As one suspect reaches toward his pocket, the officer stands, draws his service weapon, and fires while still holding an ice cream cone. Both suspects flee and abandon the motorcycle. Police arrest one nearby with a loaded firearm, and the second is later detained at a hospital. Threats can emerge without warning. Maintain awareness, avoid confrontation when possible, and contact authorities as soon as it's safe. Routine sidewalk walk turns dangerous within seconds unexpectedly. A woman walks along a quiet residential street as two men approach quickly on a motorcycle from behind her position. The motorcycle closes in near the curb and loses balance during the confrontation, drawing immediate attention from nearby civilians watching. Bystanders rush in and overpower the suspects on the ground, preventing their escape as the situation stabilizes rapidly. Afterward, street robberies escalate fast. Maintaining awareness, distance, and rapid community response can disrupt threats before escape is possible. An attempted robbery collides with an unexpected police response within seconds. In the Montes neighborhood of Fortaleza, a police pickup is stopped on a narrow residential street when suspects involved in an attempted robbery move into position. The moment is captured by security cameras. An armed suspect exits a vehicle and approaches the officers, triggering an immediate exchange of gunfire recorded from multiple angles. The remaining suspects flee in a car but are later intercepted. One suspect is arrested, another is taken for medical care under custody. Officers are not injured and weapons are seized. Street robberies escalate instantly, avoiding engagement and allowing trained authorities to respond reduces risk to everyone nearby. A motorcycle robbery attempt ends abruptly outside a neighborhood business. In Tirada, Chaco, two men arrive on a motorcycle in broad daylight. One approaches the entrance while the other stays on the bike. The moment is captured by security cameras. As the threat unfolds, the employee steps forward and throws a container of hot water toward the suspects, forcing them to retreat. The men flee on the motorcycle without taking anything. Police later confirm a weapon was seized and link the suspects to other robberies. Robbery situations escalate fast. Distance, escape, and reporting are safer than direct confrontation. A nighttime motorcycle robbery collapses almost instantly on camera. In Rio's North Zone, two men arrive on a motorcycle and approach a parked car late at night together from the street. A confrontation breaks out near the vehicle, forcing the suspects to abandon the motorcycle and split up suddenly under pressure. Police later locate one suspect at a medical unit and place him under arrest soon after treatment. The second suspect escapes. Street robberies escalate fast. Distance, awareness, and rapid reporting reduce risk during sudden threats and confusion for bystanders. A parked car draws attention on a quiet street until uniformed figures step into view. In the Ponciano sector of northern Quito, a white vehicle is parked outside a residence when two individuals arrive and begin examining it, attempting to access the doors. The scene is recorded by an exterior security camera. Officers inside the nearby building notice the activity and emerge with service weapons, confronting the suspects as the attempt unfolds. Shots are fired to repel the suspects, who immediately flee the area. No injuries are reported, and authorities later begin a review of the footage and circumstances. Vehicle theft attempts can escalate rapidly. Maintaining distance, relying on trained response, and avoiding direct confrontation helps reduce risk to everyone involved. A late-night snack order suddenly turns into something far more dangerous. In Taguatinga, a Brazilian federal district, a man wearing a motorcycle helmet enters a diner in the early hours of the morning and waits at the counter alongside other customers. Security cameras record the quiet, routine moment inside the restaurant. As the order is being handled, the helmeted man announces a robbery and threatens the employee, but a prison guard standing nearby reveals himself and moves to intervene. The guard disarms and restrains the robber on the floor until military police arrive, and the suspect is taken into custody and charged with attempted robbery. Robberies can erupt without warning. Maintaining awareness, using barriers, and relying on trained law enforcement response reduces risk to everyone present. Three masked intruders climb a warehouse stairway, kicking at a locked door. Then a security guard suddenly appears in a window below. Nighttime in a rural Brazilian warehouse complex. A trio of robbers arrives on foot, faces covered, and heads for a metal spiral staircase leading up to a side entrance. As one robber kicks at the door, the guard leans out of a nearby window with a handgun and fires several rounds toward the stairway. The lead intruder is struck and collapses, while the others turn to run. The surviving suspects flee across the yard. One can be seen limping as they disappear into the dark. Reports say the injured robber received medical treatment, and police later opened an investigation into the attempted break-in. Armed break-ins can trigger armed responses, and bullets don't care who was right. When violence erupts around a business, the safest move for workers and bystanders is to get behind solid cover, create distance, and let trained law enforcement handle the confrontation. Three teenagers rush into a gas station garage. Seconds later, an older man at the doorway opens fire. Nighttime at a gas station in Taguatinga, Brazil. A stolen car pulls up, several teens jump out and move toward two men in a small service bay, pointing what appear to be handguns during a robbery attempt. As the suspects crowd the doorway, one man, reported as a retired police officer, steps back, draws his firearm, and quickly fires several shots toward the group. The teens scramble to escape. The suspects retreat toward the car and scatter. Later, police report that one of them does not survive, and the other two are located after seeking medical help and taken into custody. Police recover the stolen vehicle and link the group to other robberies. Armed confrontations escalate in an instant and can turn deadly for everyone involved. Real or not, pointing any weapon at someone can trigger a lethal response. In a robbery, the safest option is usually to avoid resistance, create distance if possible, and contact law enforcement rather than engaging in a shootout. Don't forget to share what you learned today in the comments. Your insight could save a life. Take care.